coffee shop. You can share. Or you get high on that coffee shop.
You can what?
Can I get high on that coffee shop?
You get high only on that which is high. Anything other than that is false. It will also have a low. So last night after I finished, I said, look, I am here enjoying it, basking in this reflective presence because of you people. So I want to specially thank you. And also to tell you that wherever is possible, near or far, distance don't matter. Please let us know. Because we don't want to miss any opportunity to enhance that gardening state and feeling and entry to that high, so that it becomes a maqam, so that we also go past the maqam. I really have been immensely gratified. And I was reflecting last night that look at Allah's rahmah. We are here in the middle of a country that has just emerged from immense terror. And also human beings and the communities and also religious fraternities have their turmoil. And we have been, by Allah's rahmah, and by our own diligence as well, saved any bad energies, mishaps. We are not in an easy situation, surrounded by all kinds of discords and animosity. And here we share flowing love and goodness between us. Really, I can only express gratitude to everyone who's made it possible. Abdul Rahman, don't look important. Abdul Rahman, come through. Yes, he's a dervish, but he thinks he's important. Not for a nutcase. I was asking myself, why am I fond of him? And then there were reasons. One of which is his wife. Who's not here. And another one, Saadiya, his daughter, who's not here. So he ends up. Never mind. Sorry. Allah, may Allah keep us always with humor with regards to anything that moves. And may we go beyond that of seriousness for that which is the source of it all. Serious and grave with that which is immense. It has to be balanced with the jamal of that which is possible. So as Professor Flores will remind us all, Jalal and Jamal must always be shadowing, reflecting each other. Same thing as evolution and revolution. In my young days, which was last night, yesterday, I would be so much in fervor to see why people can't see it. I never forget Krishnamurti, whom I used to chase around the world for years. He would be tearing his hair. He said, but can't you see? Can't you see if you're angry, you've entered into that zone of anger? And nobody would see. So the same thing I thought, but they call themselves Muslims. Why aren't they joyful? Why aren't they in ecstasy so they can then exercise compassion and acceptance and patience? Anyway, we have to have that jihad until you realize that evolution and revolution are never separate. Same thing as Jalal and Jamal. So I decided my revolutionary fervor would have to be inside. My impatience has to be with the self. And my patience and boundlessness has to be with the outside. And evolution has to be outside. If it has taken Allah a few billions of years, so what does it matter if the Muslims are not in Islam for another 1,000 years, the 5,000 years? What does it matter? Add a few more zeros or But the key is to remain with that fervor, because otherwise there is no jid, there is no. But not only in expectation of others. Do what you can. Is that all right, Harun? Harun is my monitor. I mean, that's not the animal, the Arabs eat. It is easy. Is that all right? He knows, he sees things, so we have to be careful. Alhamdulillah, I can only thank Allah for the mercies that I know, and the biggest of which is companionship and love of people, unconditional, and then deal with the conditionality. The conditioned consciousness that I carry, you carry, he carries, she carries, we have to live with it. Only when it leads us and constantly acknowledges the pure, infinite, supreme consciousness from which it has emerged, by which grace it is alive, gives me my life to realize that life is beyond any limits. Therefore, my life and so-called death are insignificant in the light of the eternal life. That is liberation. That is relief. So may Allah keep us always in this party. And I truly, from my heart, in every way, can only share that which is not mine, that belongs to Rahmat al-Alameen. But we here have to celebrate it and acknowledge it, in spite of the barking dogs, in spite of all of the other background noise. And then you find the background noise actually ends up being helpful. In between you can take a break, you can have a sip of water or something, but there is none other than layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. Mercy upon mercy. Nurun ala nur. So welcome. Welcome to that for which, by which we have been designed and invented. I remember one day in the tip of Aden, coming across a shrine which was almost shining, beaming with light. And in it there was few people, old people, were in a state of obvious ecstatic dhikr. So I went there and asked them, who is this? They said, all of Aden, all of what you see is because of this man. He was one of the Aidarusis. Came from Hadramaut. Apparently, tribes were fighting, and every time they fight, they go to him and they disturb his ecstasy. So he started walking. Eventually, he vowed that he will walk until something beyond him stops him. So he ended up in what the British built as the magnificent Victorian Custom House, which is still there. A huge Victorian edifice. It's now being lived by birds, only doves and things. Nobody is in there. It's empty. In the port, right at the tip of the port. Next to it there is a little road and there is this shrine. Why I was there? Because I was living on a boat and the boat was there. And I asked, who is he? They said, this man walked and walked and walked until he came to the edge of the sea. There was nothing there. He sat there and he started reciting the Quran because he was spared now from people. After a few days, a few fish jumped and so on, and within a month or two there were people around him, and within 6 months there was a few more, and within a year there was a tiny village, and that is the origin of Aden. And this is how it happened, you know. So you end up having you cannot do it other than accepting it. Now, this is again the fourth journey of Mullah Sadr. You know, you come back to creation, but you're totally and utterly with the Creator. So nothing anymore afflicts you or touches you. Because of that amazing rahmah, layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. And it starts by saying, no, I don't want this. I'm away from my community. This young girl runs away from the death traps of whatever so-called community. Go away. And then you find, no, we have to accept boundaries. And then within that bounds, within those boundaries is the boundaries. Until such time you only see the boundaries. And that is the foundation of all of what we have gathered here for, the sacredness. There's only one. There cannot be other than that. Otherwise, how will the whole thing in all its infinite varieties of forces hold together? All of these amazing contradictory forces. Marhaba Amu Ali. You have some coffee here. in the hand of some custodian, I hope, and few nuts to chew on. Welcome, Ali. I give it to you, sir. I am honored to present you with, where is Ali? Here it is. Coffee from the farm next door to us and macadamia. I started coming, when I first came, I thought I wanted a little farm that can be self-supporting. So it was enough. They told me 3,000-4,000 trees will be enough to support a little. So we bought this thing in White River, 4.5, 3 hours away from here. I thought sufficiently far enough from the Muslims, but not really. So the first 5-6 years, every time I came, my heart will go heavier and heavier and heavier until I come to these Muslims. They say, Alhamdulillah, mashallah. The next 5 years in my life, I was really not that concerned. I was indifferent. The third 5 year, I fell into the trap of love again. So I don't really mind them. And I'm not scared. So I'm forgiven. So that's why I'm here. And then I found that no, 4,000 or 5,000 trees is not enough. You need now, with the economy at the present scale, you need 20,000 trees to make it sufficiently economical. So I said, no, they are adding zeros every day. Enough is enough. I don't want the farm. I don't want anything. I'm out of it. And it is in me. So that's the story of macadamia. I used to talk to the trees, and they began to yield. You know, they really did their things, you know. But there are other considerations of these zeros that come from the zero land. So I said, this is not my domain. I cannot handle it. So let others worry about the bills. Anyway, I am truly delighted being amongst you. And I honestly, from my heart, welcome you as my family. And I truly know the brilliant tradition that has come to us more from the Ahlul Bayt than from these other so-called Sahih. There are about 80 different traditions, all on the same line. That if you don't care for others, you will not begin to realize the oneness of the beginnings of tasting none others. Al-Khalqu Ayalillah. This hadith is accepted by all of them, and several others, but essentially they all boil down to that. That if you are Bani Adam, they are all the children of Allah. They are the family of Allah. And those who are loved most by Allah are those who care most and love the others as it is their own, as though it is their own family. So I truly, honestly, with no shadow of doubt in my heart, that those who have come here, especially you people, are my family, my extended family. So that's why if you find your wallet is missing, don't be surprised. You know, Hussein comes to somebody, he tells him, says, I have such wonderful brothers. And he asks him, tell me about your relationship. He goes on, we respect each other. He says, but can you truly put your hand in their pocket and take what you want without feeling guilty? And the knowledge that you will also one day may reciprocate and return? He said, no. He said, then they are not yours. It's like the fellow also who comes home and is made. They use these words, slave. It's a maid, it's not a slave. 60, 70, 80% of the people in Athens were considered slaves. They were the same people. They were under what we call nowadays wage earners. That's the same, that's slavery. So he said, I came home and my maid was very scared. And she said, I don't know what came over me. Your friend so-and-so came to the door in a very bad state. And he asked me, where do you keep your gold? So I knew it was in a little hole in the other room, dug, and it says covered with a little mat. So I told him, this is it. He came and opened it and took, I don't know how many. I don't know what came over me. Please forgive me. I don't know, I'm supposed to be the custodian of your home and your wealth. So he said to her, you are free now. You've showed me that I have a real brother. It is that love that is beyond more words. And that's what I share with you. And it is honestly true. I love you unconditionally. And I can assure you there is no gold hidden here. So don't dig, because it's not just earth. It is.
It was taken from the boat.
Anyway, I am so delighted with you people that I have tasted repeatedly here because of the shared love and the people who have come here not knowing the secret that the giver is the taker, that we can share that between us as human beings. And wherever you are from, wherever you go back to, I have absolutely no doubt what we share between us is very potent. So you may need to dilute it for others. You know, like the French teach their children. The 6, 7-year-old, they give them a bit of wine with water, and then wine, and they end up with spirit. We live by spirit. Not out of a bottle. Spirit that has prevailed, that has taken over by decree of the designer. So welcome, 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 welcome. And Ibrahim Rabat, who's sitting there, reassures me there will always be gifts of carpets to whoever. Please next time come with your specification. We first start by saying how generous he is, so he does it. How wonderful, how often he does, and he gives carpets. So we start with that until he falls into that trap. Thank you, Ibrahim. Thank you, Majid. Thank you, everyone who's made this possible. Thank you, Asya. Thank you, everyone. Really, I don't know. We have ended up here having, 20, 30 men and women who really serve and do. And I often take them for granted and forget them. Because I'm so like I forgot my mother's love and the generosity. We forget it. We take it for granted. And you move on and on until you find the whole thing is held by love. It is like a supermarket which contains millions of different types of glues. First is a bit of liking. So we have something in common. What is it? We do weightlifting. So what is it we do bird watching? A bit of, until you find all of these are different versions of a cosmic glue that we call love. This is what we share between us. And I can only reflect it from my heart to your hearts, which are all open, which are all illumined. May that light shine. And as the Quran says, يَهْدِيهُمُ اللَّهُ بِنُورِهِمْ. Allah will guide us according to that light. Bi-imani, according to that trust. The trust is that we know we don't know. We know there is a zone, there is a field of knowledge that will give us what we need to know at the time we need to know. Hi, Ibrahim. Say something. Say what you have just heard.
Allah will give you what you need to know at the time you need to know. And one thing I have learned from you is give of that which you love best, which you have parted with.
But how many people take it? You
We
were
need
ready.
to live it.
You were.
We need to live it.
Ibrahim was very much concerned a few years ago. He said, I used to have love for these brilliant carpets. And if there is a man who knows his carpets, he said, I want to get them. So it had fallen off. Good morning, Farhad. Welcome, Yunus. Welcome, all of you.
Tea is being served.
Well, the tea is served. The angels are taking it. We are drinking from the maker of
I can
angels.
see that, yeah.
Is that all right? I take orders. Shall we? He's made some noise.
Maybe you can
Sounds like
just-
tea. If only Sheikh Kabir says yes.
I was telling Sheikh Kabir this morning, your talks that you did on refinement of character on four series.
Yes.
I think we need to give it to Sheikh Kabir to put on his website.
give everything to Sheikh Khalid. It's from my heart now. It's amazing about CDs. Honestly,
Do you
these are
have-
thieves.
I gave him one.
Sheikh Saadi,
No.
Professor
That they find one of
Laura Street, they are thieves. They've taken my house. Khalas, and if they have robbed your heart,
I got the new one. I can
welcome.
see.
This is what Rumi talks about the robbers in the morning. Welcome. Welcome them to the house. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you all. I really here have few close friends that I abuse them to the hilt. And that's why I say now you have entered the zone of Al-Sabur. Truly, this is the joy we have here. We have some wonderful people visiting us. And some of them come to whisper, like Sadiq al-Mahdi. He says, please tell me, what is the secret? So we have only opposite. We have been pulverized by the sacred, by Allah's love for us. And then he said to me, something else here I found, that the women are happy. So I said, we only beat them at night. And in the morning we patch them up. This is how I believe Islam will rise. بدأ الإسلام غريبا وسيعود غريبا. Look in the middle of what now? فطوبى للغرباء. So after this pure alcohol, I think we should descend and take our share of the worldly tea. Is that all right?
With your permission.
Shall we do the Fatiha together? بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الرحمن
الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط
As you know, there is no end of symbolism. One of the symbolism, closing the eye, is that from sight we go to insight. We don't deny this, but we take it as a prelude, as an opening to insight. We part without parting, as you all know. If there is farq, its origin is jam. Cannot be one thing. Same thing as the Jamara. So وَلَا جَامِعَ إِلَّا هُوَ. That Noor is what brings about a gathering where after which the dispersion is only outer and based on shadows. The original unifying meadow is already there. Welcome Ustad Iqbal. Welcome. You know, he has been the anchor. This brilliant, wonderful being. Honestly. These conferences, these gatherings could not have been without. Really, he is the ultimate reference and immensely generous. Now we have to compete with the government and other friends of his and so on because he is traveling a lot. You know, had we not loved him unconditionally, I would have been jealous. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Mustafa. Thank you. Allah. Bismillah.